Most people think the worst moment of losing a spouse is the funeral. It isn't. The real shock comes when you believe life is finally settled, and then something tears it open again. A year after my wife passed, I hired a plumber to fix a small leak in her old office. Just a routine repair. I wasn't expecting anything more than a bill and a damp wall. But when my phone rang, the man on the other end didn't sound routine. His voice was low, careful, almost cautious. Then he said, "Sir, you need to come home right now, but come alone." He didn't explain. He didn't elaborate. Just that. Come alone. At my age, those words don't create curiosity. They create dread. You don't think about inconvenience. You think about consequences. Something serious enough that a stranger doesn't want witnesses. Something that shouldn't be overheard. And suddenly, that harmless leak inside her office didn't feel harmless anymore. That room had always been hers. I never searched it, never questioned it. After 42 years of marriage, you assume what's behind a closed door is paperwork, not secrets. But as I turned the car around and headed home, one thing became clear. Whatever was waiting inside that office wasn't just a plumbing issue. And in a few minutes, I was going to find out why I had been told to come alone. The drive home should have taken 10 minutes. It felt longer. Not because of traffic, because of that sentence repeating in my head. Come alone. He hadn't sounded dramatic. He had sounded careful. And careful is worse. Careful means someone is choosing their words. I tried to convince myself it was structural damage. Maybe the leak had spread. Maybe something expensive. But if it were just money, he would have said that. You don't tell a 74-year-old man to come alone over drywall. As I turned onto my street, I noticed something small that unsettled me. His van was still in the driveway. Engine off, doors closed. He was waiting. That meant whatever he found wasn't something he could ignore and finish later. I parked slowly. The house looked the same as it had that morning. Quiet, still, ordinary. And yet my chest felt tight, the way it does before a doctor clears his throat and says, "We found something." I stepped out of the car. The front door was slightly open. I was certain I had closed it when I left. And in that moment, before I even crossed the threshold, I understood something simple and cold. This was no longer about a leak. Something inside that house had already changed, and in a few seconds, I was going to see it for myself. The house felt wrong the second I stepped inside. Not louder, not darker, just wrong. I called out once, no answer. The plumber appeared from the hallway, rag in his hand. He wasn't flustered. He wasn't rushing. That made it worse. "It's in the office," he said quietly. Nothing more, no explanation. He stepped aside as if this part belonged to me. The hallway light was on. The office door was slightly open. I knew I had shut it before leaving. I walked toward it, aware of how loud my footsteps sounded on the floor. He didn't follow closely, but I could feel him behind me, waiting. If this were about pipes, he'd be talking about pipes. Instead, he was silent. I reached the door and pushed it open fully. The room looked almost the same. Desk, chair, shelves, but the air felt disturbed. Then I saw it. The filing cabinet had been pulled away from the wall, and behind it, clean, straight cuts through the drywall. Not water damage, not rot. Someone had opened that wall on purpose. The edges weren't crumbling, they were precise. I stepped closer. There was an empty space between the studs. Empty! Whatever had been hidden there was gone. I stepped back, my hands trembling slightly. The gap in the wall felt too deliberate to be a coincidence. Whoever had been there knew exactly what they were looking for, and they had taken it before I even got home. The room smelled faintly of dust and metal, the kind you notice only when everything else is silent. My eyes scanned the office, looking for anything out of place. Drawers slightly open, papers moved, her chair not perfectly aligned. But nothing obvious. Everything else looked normal. Too normal. The plumber stayed near the door, silent. I finally asked, my voice low, "Did you see anyone?" He shook his head. "No, I found it like this," he said. That single sentence hit harder than any explanation could. No signs of struggle, no fingerprints. Just a wall opened, a space emptied, and me standing there wondering how a life shared for 42 years could suddenly hide something so crucial. My mind raced. Could it have been someone we knew? Someone in the house? The thought of a stranger rifling through her things at my age made my stomach twist. And then I realized the hardest part. Whoever had taken it knew exactly how to cover their tracks, and that meant I was looking at a puzzle I wasn't prepared to solve, not alone. I stepped away from the hollow wall and glanced around the office again, searching for anything I might have missed. That's when I noticed it. A small, folded envelope tucked behind a stack of old files on her desk. I hadn't seen it before. How could I? Everything else had seemed normal. I reached for it, but the plumber's hand lightly touched my arm. "Careful," he said, his voice low. "Open it if you want, but be prepared. This isn't just a note." My fingers trembled as I unfolded the envelope. Inside was a single photograph. My wife, smiling, standing beside a man I didn't recognize. A man who wasn't in any of our family albums. The back of the photo had a date. Not recent, but recent enough to make my chest tighten. And suddenly I realized this wasn't just about what someone had taken from the wall. There were pieces of her life I had never known, clues she had hidden, and now someone else had found them first. The quiet office felt colder, smaller, and more dangerous. I had walked into her past, and I had no idea what had been left behind for me to discover next. My hands shook as I held the photograph, staring at the smiling man beside my wife. Who was he, and why had she never mentioned him? I felt a chill crawl up my spine, the kind that makes the back of your neck prickle. The plumber cleared his throat softly. "Sir, there's something else," he said, nodding toward the filing cabinet. My eyes followed his gesture, and I froze. One of the drawers, which I had never opened before, was slightly ajar. I didn't remember leaving it like that. My pulse quickened. Whoever had been here before me hadn't just taken something from the wall. They had left subtle signs, almost like a warning. I hesitated. Should I open it? Could this drawer hold answers or more questions I wasn't ready for? And then I realized something worse. The office wasn't just a room of memories anymore. It was a map of secrets, and someone had already traced the path before me. Whatever had been hidden in that drawer, I knew, wouldn't just reveal her past. It might reveal a truth someone wanted to keep buried. I swallowed hard and reached for the handle, knowing that the moment I pulled it open, nothing would ever feel safe in that house again. I gripped the drawer and pulled it open slowly. Inside were papers, Handwritten notes, receipts, and a small locked envelope I hadn't noticed before. My heart thumped painfully in my chest. The notes weren't random. They were dated, detailed, and all referenced meetings and payments I had never known about. And then I saw it. A small key taped to the inside of the drawer. I didn't recognize what it opened, but the handwriting on the envelope matched hers. My stomach twisted. Whoever had been here had left it in plain sight, almost daring me to uncover it. The plumber cleared his throat behind me. "Sir, you might not want to see this," he said, though his eyes betrayed curiosity and worry. My fingers hovered over the envelope. One touch, one break of the seal, and I would step into a part of her life she had clearly intended to keep secret. My hands shook. I realized with a sinking certainty that this wasn't just about the wall or the hollow space. Whatever was in that envelope could change everything I thought I knew about her and about us. I took a deep breath, knowing I couldn't turn back now. I picked up the small envelope, my fingers trembling. The seal was fragile, like it had been meant to be opened someday, but not yet. I hesitated, thinking of my wife, of the life I had shared with her, and the secrets I had never known. Finally, I tore it open. Inside was a single folded note and a small flash drive. My hands shook as I unfolded the note. The handwriting was hers, neat, precise, but the words made my stomach drop. "If you're reading this, it means someone else knows. Be careful. Trust no one." My eyes darted to the flash drive. What was on it, and who had already seen it before me? The plumber shifted uneasily. "Sir, whoever took the wall's contents, they might still be watching," he said softly. The words hung in the air like a cold wind. My mind raced. Someone had been inside her office, taken something, left warnings. And now this note, this drive, made it clear. I wasn't just uncovering her secrets. I was stepping into a game someone else had started, and I had no idea how dangerous it could be. I swallowed hard and held the drive tightly. One step, one decision, and everything would change. My hand shook as I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. The screen flickered and a single folder appeared. Inside were dozens of files, photos, emails, even scanned documents. The first file I opened was a video. My wife appeared on screen, sitting at her desk, smiling softly. But there was tension in her eyes I had never seen before. She spoke directly to the camera, almost like a confession. "If anyone finds this, it means I failed to keep it hidden. But it had to be documented, for the right person to know, someday." My heart thumped painfully. Who was the right person, and why had she recorded this in secret? I glanced at the plumber. His face was pale, his jaw tight. "Sir, maybe this isn't just about memories anymore," he said quietly. The room felt colder, smaller. The quiet office that had once felt safe now felt like a trap. Someone had been here. They had taken things from her wall. And now, watching this video, I understood. Whatever she had been hiding, it wasn't just personal. It was dangerous. And I was standing right in the middle of it. I clicked through the next files, my hands trembling. There were letters, bank statements, and a series of emails between my wife and someone whose name I didn't recognize. The messages were careful, coded, and occasionally urgent. One email stood out. It was addressed to her, not from her, warning her that they are watching and to be careful with the documents. My chest tightened. "Watching?" I whispered under my breath. The plumber shifted uneasily near the doorway. "Sir, whoever sent that, or whoever she was hiding it from, might still be around," he said, almost too softly. The office suddenly felt suffocating. Every familiar object, the desk, the chair, the neatly stacked papers, seemed like a trap now. The hollow wall, the photograph, the note, the flash drive, they were all pieces of something bigger, something I had been blind to for decades. And now I understood with a sinking certainty. The danger wasn't over. Whoever had taken what was hidden behind that wall, they were still out there, and I was running out of time to figure out why. I sat at the desk, the flash drive still plugged in, staring at the emails and documents spread before me. Each one painted a picture I hadn't imagined. Secret meetings, unexplained transactions, coded messages, all tied to my wife and all pointing to someone I had never met. My hands shook as I tried to piece it together. The hollow wall, the photograph, the note, the flash drive, it all felt like a carefully staged puzzle, and I had just stepped into it. I glanced at the plumber, who avoided my eyes as if he knew more than he could say. "Sir, maybe you should step outside for a moment," he suggested quietly. But I couldn't, not now. Every second I waited, I felt eyes on me, even though the house was empty. Whoever had taken that wall's contents, whoever had sent the warning emails, they were still out there. And if they were watching me now, they would know I had found the flash drive. My chest tightened, my palms damp. One wrong move, and I realized the danger wouldn't just be to the secrets, it could be to me. I took a deep breath and stood, clutching the flash drive and the photograph. I couldn't stay idle, not when someone had been inside my wife's office, taken her secrets, and left warnings in plain sight. I glanced at the plumber, who met my eyes with a mix of concern and caution. "Sir, are you sure about this?" he asked. I nodded, though my hands were still shaking. I had to know. I started searching the rest of the office, carefully checking each drawer, each cabinet, each corner that I had never thought to look at before. That's when I noticed it, a faint scratch on the floorboards near the window. It was subtle, easily overlooked, but unmistakable. A sign that someone had been here, crouched low, careful not to make a sound. My pulse quickened. Whoever had been inside hadn't just taken her hidden items, they had been meticulous, patient, and possibly still nearby. I swallowed hard. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but the truth was buried somewhere in this office, and I wasn't walking away until I found it. I crouched near the scratch on the floor, running my fingers lightly along the edge of the carpet. That's when I saw it, a small folded piece of paper wedged between the boards, almost invisible. My heart thumped painfully in my chest as I pulled it out. It was a note, written in a handwriting that wasn't my wife's. "Stop digging, or you'll regret it. Some secrets are meant to stay buried." The words made my stomach twist. Someone had been here, recently, and they had left this warning just for me. I straightened slowly, eyes darting around the room, every shadow suddenly suspicious. The plumber shifted uneasily, his silence speaking volumes. "Sir, maybe we should call someone," he said cautiously. But I shook my head. I couldn't, not yet. Whoever had left this note wanted fear to control me, but fear wasn't enough to stop me. I had to know the truth. And as I stared at the hollow wall, at the drawers, at the familiar objects now steeped in danger, I realized this wasn't just about my wife's secrets anymore. This was about me and whether I could survive uncovering them. I held the note tightly in my hand, the paper crumpling slightly under my grip. Fear pressed in from all sides, but I couldn't let it stop me. Whoever had left this warning thought they could control me, keep me from uncovering the truth, but I wasn't going to let that happen. I glanced around the office, scanning for anything else out of place. That's when I noticed a faint outline on the back wall, near the corner the sunlight barely touched. Something had been taped there and removed, like someone had taken a photograph or a small document. My pulse quickened. The signs were all around me: the hollow wall, the hidden drawer, the photograph, the note, and now this. Whoever had been here had left a trail, whether intentionally or not. I took a deep breath and decided to follow it. Slowly, I started examining every corner of the office, tapping on walls, opening cabinets, checking under the carpet. Each small discovery tightened the knot in my stomach, but also fueled a grim determination. I would find whatever she had hidden, no matter who was trying to stop me. And I knew, deep down, that the next thing I uncovered would change everything. I crouched low, inspecting the faint outline on the wall. My fingers brushed against something sticky. It was a small piece of tape, and when I lifted it, I found a folded slip of paper stuck behind it. I unfolded it with trembling hands. Written in sharp, hurried handwriting was an address and a date. My pulse raced. This wasn't just a warning anymore. It was a breadcrumb, left either carelessly or intentionally. The note didn't explain who had sent it or what awaited me there, but I knew instinctively that it was connected to everything: the hollow wall, the photograph, the hidden drawer, the envelope, and the flash drive. The plumber hovered behind me, his unease palpable. "Sir, are you really going to go there?" he asked quietly. I swallowed hard. I didn't want to, but I had no choice. If I didn't follow this clue, I would never uncover the truth she had hidden. And if I did, I might finally confront the person who had been manipulating her secrets, and who might still be watching me, right now, from the shadows. I folded the slip of paper carefully and tucked it into my pocket. The address stared at me like a challenge, daring me to uncover the truth. My hand shook and my chest tightened with a mix of fear and determination. The plumber watched me silently, his eyes filled with concern. "Sir, you really think you should go there alone?" he asked. I shook my head, knowing there was no one else I could trust. Whoever had left the note, whoever had taken things from her office, they had already set this in motion. If I hesitated, I might lose the chance to uncover the secrets she had hidden forever. I took a deep breath, pulled on my coat, and stepped out of the office. The air outside felt colder, sharper, like it carried warnings I couldn't see. Every step toward my car made my pulse race. I had no idea what awaited me at that address, or who might be watching, waiting. But I knew one thing: whatever I found there could change everything I thought I knew about her, and possibly put me in real danger. There was no turning back. I parked a few houses down, my eyes scanning the quiet street. The address matched the note perfectly, but the house looked ordinary, almost too ordinary, as if it was daring me to think it was safe. My pulse raced, each step toward the front door heavy with anticipation. The flash drive and photograph burned in my pocket like evidence I couldn't lose. I reached for the door handle and froze. A shadow moved inside, just beyond the curtains. Someone was there. My heart pounded so loudly I thought they might hear it. I considered leaving, but curiosity and a desperate need for answers pushed me forward. I rapped lightly on the door. The shadow stiffened. A voice came from inside, calm but edged with warning. "I knew you'd come, and I hope you're ready for what you're about to find." My stomach tightened. Whoever this was, they knew about the flash drive. They knew about me. And suddenly, I understood. The game had just begun, and I had no idea what rules I was playing by, or if I would make it out of this house unscathed. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside cautiously, every muscle tense. The room was dimly lit, shadows stretching across the walls. The figure standing in the corner didn't move at first, just watched me, calm and deliberate. Then he spoke again, his voice low, carrying a weight I couldn't place. "I've been waiting for someone to find this. I didn't expect it to be you." My stomach twisted. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He stepped closer, and the faint light revealed a face I didn't recognize, but there was an unmistakable familiarity in his eyes. "I knew your wife," he said slowly, "and what she hid. It wasn't meant for anyone, not even you. But now that you're here, you need to understand why she did it." My heart pounded. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't. The flash drive, the photograph, the note, they had all led me here. And now, standing in this house, facing this man who knew my wife better than I did, I realized that the secrets she had kept were far more dangerous than I could have imagined. The man stepped closer, his eyes never leaving mine. "Your wife, she wasn't just hiding memories, she was protecting something," he said, his voice quiet but urgent. "Something dangerous. People would kill to get it." My chest tightened. What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice trembling. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small envelope, the same size as the one I had found in her office. "She left this for you," he said, handing it over. My hands shook as I took it. Inside were papers, receipts, and a small map with coordinates. My stomach churned. The flash drive, the photograph, the notes, they had all led to this. "You don't understand," the man said, his tone sharp now. "If anyone else finds this before you, it won't just be secrets exposed. It'll be your life." The room felt like it had closed in around me. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't. I had come too far, and the weight of 42 years of trust, love, and loss pressed down on me. I had to know the truth, and I had no choice but to follow the path she had left behind, no matter the danger. I stared at the map in my hands, tracing the coordinates with a shaking finger. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to turn away, to leave the house, to forget the secrets that had been hidden for decades. But something stronger pulled me forward. The need to understand, the need to know why she had kept all of this from me. The man's eyes didn't leave mine. "Sir, if you go there," he said slowly, "you need to be careful. Whoever else knows about this, they won't hesitate, not for a second." My chest tightened and I swallowed hard. The flash drive, the photograph, the notes, the envelope, they had all built to this moment. I had a choice: stay safe or step into a truth that could shatter everything I thought I knew. I took a deep breath, folded the map carefully, and pocketed it. My hands still trembled, but my decision was made. Whatever lay at those coordinates, I had to face it. And as I stepped back toward the door, I realized the weight of it. This journey wouldn't just uncover secrets, it could very well put my life at risk. I left the house with the envelope and the map carefully tucked into my coat pocket. The street outside felt eerily quiet, too quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Every passing shadow made my pulse spike, every distant sound a warning. The flash drive burned in my pocket like a promise I couldn't ignore, and the photograph of her smiling face reminded me why I couldn't turn back now. I paused at my car, taking a deep breath and steadying my hands. Whoever had left the note, whoever had taken the items from her office, they might be watching. I had no way of knowing if I was walking straight into a trap, but something told me I couldn't stop, not now. I started the car and drove slowly, every nerve alert, every eye scanning the streets. The coordinates would lead me somewhere, but where and what would I find? And as I drove, I realized the truth. This journey, once meant to uncover secrets, might soon become a fight for survival. The drive was quiet, almost unnervingly so. The coordinates led me to the edge of town, to a narrow, winding road flanked by dense trees. Shadows stretched long in the fading light, and the air felt colder, sharper, as if warning me to turn back. I parked the car a few hundred feet from the location, scanning the area. There was no house, no building, just the forest, silent except for the occasional rustle of leaves. My pulse thumped painfully as I stepped out, the envelope and flash drive still in my coat. Every instinct screamed danger. Whoever had left the notes, whoever had been inside my wife's office, they could be anywhere, hidden, watching. The thought made my hands tremble, but I couldn't retreat. I took a deep breath and started walking toward where the map indicated, the crunch of leaves underfoot loud in the stillness. And then, from somewhere deep in the trees, I heard it, a snapping twig. I froze. Someone or something was moving toward me. And suddenly, the secret my wife had spent decades hiding wasn't just a mystery anymore. It was a threat I could no longer ignore. I froze, every nerve on edge, listening to the snap of the twig behind me. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure anyone nearby could hear it. Slowly I turned, straining to see through the shadows of the trees. A figure emerged, tall, silent, moving with careful precision. My stomach knotted. I couldn't tell if it was someone who wanted to help me or someone who wanted to stop me. The envelope and flash drive burned in my pocket like fuel for what was about to happen. The figure stopped a few feet away, just beyond the faint glow of my flashlight. "You shouldn't have come here," the voice said, calm but edged with menace. Every instinct told me to run, but the path I had followed, every clue, every secret, had led me here. I clenched my fists, swallowing hard. Whoever this was, they knew about my wife. They knew about the hidden items, and now they knew about me. One wrong move, and this encounter wouldn't just be about secrets, it would be about survival. I stood frozen, my eyes locked on the figure emerging from the shadows. Every muscle in my body screamed to run, but I knew I couldn't, not yet. The envelope and flash drive weighed heavy in my coat pocket, carrying decades of secrets and a truth I needed to uncover. The figure shifted slightly, and I noticed something in their hand, a small, folded piece of paper, almost identical to the ones my wife had hidden. My pulse spiked. Whoever this was, they weren't just here to scare me. They were here for the same reason I had come, her secrets. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to think clearly. Running blindly might keep me alive for now, but it wouldn't get me answers. I had to engage, cautiously, and find out what they knew, what they wanted, and how far this went. I straightened, taking a slow, deliberate step forward. "I don't know what you want," I said, my voice steady despite the fear clawing at my chest. "But I need answers, and I'm not leaving until I get them." The figure paused, and for a moment the forest was silent except for our breathing. I realized then that this confrontation was just the beginning, and that the path my wife had hidden for me was far more dangerous than I had imagined. The figure stepped closer, and the dim light revealed a sharp, calculating gaze. "I see you found her flash drive," they said, voice low but edged with warning. "She trusted you with it, but she didn't trust everyone else. Not yet." My pulse quickened. "Who are you?" I demanded, my hands trembling but trying to appear steady. They hesitated, then slowly held up the small paper they had been hiding. It was another note from my wife, folded in the same meticulous way, but this one was addressed to me specifically. "She knew you'd follow the trail," the figure said. "She wanted you to understand something before it was too late. But there are others, ones who would kill to stop you." My stomach dropped. Everything I thought I knew about her, about our life together, suddenly felt fragile, like it could shatter with one wrong move. And standing there, facing this stranger who somehow knew her secrets as well as I did, I realized the terrifying truth. The flash drive, the photograph, the notes, everything she had hidden was only the beginning. Whoever my wife had been protecting me from, they were still out there, watching, waiting. I took the note from the figure with slow, careful hands. My mind was racing, but I forced myself to focus on the words in front of me. This one felt different. Not a warning meant to scare me away, but a message meant to guide me forward. The figure watched silently as I unfolded it. The handwriting was unmistakably hers. It wasn't long, just a few lines, but the meaning made my throat tighten. "If you are reading this, then you have already taken the first step. Do not stop. The truth is not in the office. It is where the records live." My brow furrowed. Records? What records? The figure spoke quietly, almost reluctantly. "She moved everything important. What you found in the wall, that was only a copy. The real information is elsewhere." My heart sank and lifted at the same time. If this was true, then the hollow wall wasn't the final secret. It was a decoy, which meant she had planned this carefully. She hadn't just hidden something. She had orchestrated a path, and suddenly I understood. I wasn't chasing a mystery. I was following instructions. But instructions for what, and toward what danger, I still didn't know. I looked at the figure again. "Where are the records?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. They didn't answer immediately. Instead, they reached into their coat and handed me a small business card. On it was the name of a storage facility on the outskirts of town. "She rented a unit there," the figure said quietly, "under a name you wouldn't recognize. She did it to protect you." My heart skipped. A storage unit? That meant the real documents weren't in the house at all. Everything I had found, the hollow wall, the envelope, the flash drive, was only part of a larger plan. The figure stepped back slightly, as if giving me space to process it. "She knew this day might come," they added, "and she wanted you to have a choice." My mind raced. If the records were in that storage unit, then whoever took the wall's contents might already know about it too, which meant time was not on my side. The forest felt quieter now, but the danger hadn't disappeared. It had simply moved somewhere else. And I realized that the next place I went would determine whether I uncovered the truth or walked straight into something far more serious. I drove cautiously toward the storage facility, the envelope and flash drive still tucked safely in my coat. Every passing mile made my chest tighten, every shadow along the road a potential threat. When I arrived, the place looked innocuous. Rows of metal units, a quiet hum of security lights, but I knew appearances were deceiving. I parked a short distance away and got out, scanning for anyone who might be watching. The gate creaked softly as I walked through, and the air felt colder, heavier, like it was charged with warnings I couldn't see. I found the unit number on the card and approached it slowly. My hands shook as I inserted the key my wife had hidden for me months ago. The lock clicked open, revealing the dim interior. Inside were neatly stacked boxes, labeled carefully, and a filing cabinet in the far corner. The air smelled of dust and paper. I stepped inside cautiously, realizing that every clue, every note, every hidden item had led me here. And for the first time, I understood that the real truth wasn't just a mystery. It was something tangible, something someone else would kill to protect. Every instinct screamed at me to stop, but I couldn't. The moment I closed the door behind me, the storage unit felt less like a place and more like the stage for a danger I was only beginning to understand. I stepped deeper into the storage unit, my eyes scanning the stacks of boxes and filing cabinets. Each label seemed deliberately vague, almost like it was daring me to open them. My hands trembled as I pulled open the first box. Inside were documents, photographs, and small personal items, everything meticulously organized. Then I noticed a folder marked with my wife's initials. My pulse spiked. I opened it slowly. Inside were letters, receipts, and photographs I had never seen before. Evidence of meetings, transactions, and correspondence with people whose names made my stomach twist. One photograph made me freeze. My wife standing beside the same man from the flash drive video. But this time, they were in a location I recognized, a place I had visited long ago. The implications hit me hard. She hadn't just been hiding secrets. She had been protecting me from someone, from something, for years. And now, standing alone in the storage unit, surrounded by the tangible proof of her hidden life, I realized the danger wasn't just in the past. It was still very much present. Someone knew I was here. Someone was watching. I rifled through the folders until one caught my eye, a thick envelope marked with a red seal, different from anything else I had seen. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were contracts, legal papers, and a series of letters addressed to my wife, detailing a financial arrangement I had never known existed. But it wasn't the money that made my blood run cold. It was the content of one particular letter. It described a threat against her life if certain information ever got into the wrong hands, and explicitly mentioned my name. I froze, my heart hammering. She had been protecting me all along, orchestrating every hidden note, every secret path, every flash drive to keep me safe. The weight of it hit me like a punch. The danger I had felt wasn't paranoia. It was real. Someone had been hunting her secrets, and now that I had followed the trail, I was in the crosshairs too. I swallowed hard, realizing that uncovering the truth might cost more than I had ever imagined, maybe even my life. I sank onto a chair inside the storage unit, my mind racing through everything I had uncovered so far. The photographs, the flash drive, the notes, and now this letter. It all pointed to someone who had been manipulating my wife's life from the shadows. But who and why? My hands trembled as I flipped through the letters again, looking for patterns, names, anything I could latch onto. Then it hit me. One recurring signature. A subtle mark in the corner of several letters, one I had overlooked before. It was the same mark on the last envelope, the one that warned me to come alone. My pulse quickened. Whoever this was, they had been orchestrating everything carefully, leaving breadcrumbs, hiding threats, and making sure no one could piece it together until the right moment. I realized with a sinking certainty, the danger wasn't random, it was personal. And now that I had followed her trail, I was right in the center of it. The question that burned in my mind, how far would they go to stop me from uncovering the truth? I carefully spread the documents across the small table inside the storage unit, trying to calm my breathing. The recurring mark wasn't random. It appeared on contracts, on letters, even faintly stamped on the edge of one of the photographs. I compared everything side by side until a pattern emerged, an address tied to a private legal firm. My wife's name appeared in their records, but not in a way that made sense at first glance. Then I saw it. She had set up a confidential file there, locked under strict instructions that only I could access it after a certain date. My heart pounded. She hadn't just hidden things in the wall or in this unit. She had layered protection, anticipating interference. That meant she expected someone to try to stop the truth from reaching me. And if that was true, then whoever had sent the warnings wasn't just threatening her past. They were reacting to my presence now. I realized something chilling. The moment I opened that envelope, the moment I plugged in the flash drive, I may have triggered attention. And if that was the case, the next move wouldn't be mine alone. As I gathered the documents, a sudden sound echoed from outside the storage unit. A metallic click. I froze. The door hadn't made that sound when I entered. Slowly, I walked toward the entrance and listened. Footsteps. Not hurried, controlled. Someone was at the unit. My pulse surged. I turned off the small light inside and stood still in the darkness, holding the folder tightly against my chest. Through the thin metal wall, I heard voices, low, urgent, but not panicked. They were searching. My mind raced. Had someone followed me from the house? Or had the storage facility already alerted someone the moment the unit was opened? The realization settled heavily. This wasn't just about uncovering secrets anymore. It was about timing. She had prepared for this moment. The documents, the unit, the instructions, everything was designed to reach me safely. But if someone else arrived before I could secure what I found, the truth might disappear again. I needed a plan, and fast, because now I understood something clearly. Whoever had been hiding in the shadows didn't want me to win this game, and they had just made their move. I stayed completely still in the darkness, listening to the footsteps outside the storage unit. They moved slowly, deliberately, stopping near my door. My grip tightened around the folder. Whoever was out there knew this unit had been accessed. That meant my presence was no longer private. I waited for a knock, a voice, anything, but there was only silence. Then I heard the faint sound of a key turning in a nearby lock. Not mine, another unit. The realization hit me. I wasn't necessarily the target right now, but I was definitely being observed. Carefully. I lowered myself behind the stacked boxes, keeping the documents close to my chest. If they entered, I would have seconds to react. My wife had prepared this place for me, that much was clear. But she couldn't control every variable. And now, for the first time since this began, I felt the reality of the situation settle in. Uncovering the truth wasn't just emotional anymore. It was strategic. One mistake, one loud movement, and everything could collapse. The footsteps began to fade. Whoever it was, they hadn't entered, but they had made one thing unmistakable. I was not alone in this story. After the footsteps faded, I waited several more minutes in complete silence before daring to move. My hands were steady now, not from courage, but from focus. Whatever had just happened proved one thing: this wasn't over. I carefully reopened the folder from the storage unit and focused on the confidential documents inside. One envelope stood out, sealed with the same recurring mark I had seen before. This one was labeled clearly, "To be opened only after confirmation of access." My heart tightened. Confirmation of access meant she had planned for this moment specifically. I broke the seal and unfolded the letter. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't a warning. It was instructions. Detailed steps about how to transfer legal authority over certain records and how to activate protection measures if someone attempted to interfere. My breath slowed as I read further. She hadn't been hiding something for fear of me. She had been building a shield around me. The documents described financial and legal safeguards designed to prevent anyone from using her past against me. Everything I had discovered, the wall, the flash drive, the storage unit, wasn't a betrayal. It was a defense strategy. And suddenly the fear shifted. If she had gone to this level to protect me, then the real threat wasn't about secrets. It was about whoever had been trying to control them. And that meant the danger was still active, because someone out there had already noticed that her protection plan was being activated. I studied the recurring mark again, this time under a small magnifying glass I always kept in my desk drawer. It wasn't just a symbol, it was a signature of a system she had used, one she trusted implicitly. Comparing it to the letters and documents, a pattern emerged. Every piece of correspondence, every warning, every envelope pointed back to one entity, a law firm she had worked with decades ago, a firm that had handled her confidential dealings and, apparently, monitored potential threats. The mark wasn't random. It was their logo, subtly altered. My pulse quickened. Whoever had been leaving notes, sending warnings, and orchestrating the messages to guide me, it all led back to them. And now, after following her path to the storage unit and uncovering the confidential files, I understood something chilling. The person controlling this wasn't just a stranger. They were someone intimately connected to her past, someone who had access to the very protections she had built for me, and they had been watching every move I made. My hands shook, but my mind raced faster. This was no longer just a story of hidden secrets. It was a game of survival, and the opponent had been known to her, and possibly to me, all along. I leaned back against the filing cabinet, my mind spinning from the realization that the mastermind behind all of this had been following every step I took. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. A small camera, barely visible, tucked into the corner of the storage unit ceiling. Its lens reflected a faint glint from the light, and I understood immediately. I was being watched right now. My pulse thundered in my ears. Every decision I had made, every document I had touched, had been observed. Whoever had designed this plan for my wife had also ensured that the trail could be monitored. The thought made my hands clammy. This wasn't just about discovering the truth anymore. It was about outsmarting someone who had been 3 steps ahead from the beginning. I had to move carefully. One wrong step, and they could take the documents, the flash drive, even me. I swallowed hard, steeling myself. The person behind all of this wasn't hiding in the shadows anymore. They were watching me directly, and the real confrontation was imminent. I looked directly at the small camera in the corner of the ceiling, forcing myself not to panic. If they were watching, then they would see something they didn't expect. Calm. Not fear. Not confusion. Control. I slowly reached into my pocket and removed the flash drive, holding it up so the camera could see it clearly. If someone was monitoring me, they would know I had everything. That meant the advantage had shifted, even slightly, in my direction. I then gathered all the documents, placing them carefully back into the folder, making sure nothing was left behind. If they tried to take the physical records, they would have to reveal themselves. I stepped toward the unit door, deliberately leaving it slightly open instead of locking it. A simple move, but strategic. Now they couldn't trap me inside without showing their hand. My heart was steady, but alert. For the first time since this began, I felt something stronger than fear: clarity. This wasn't about secrets anymore. It was about exposing whoever had been manipulating the story from the beginning. And if they wanted the truth hidden, they would have to face me to keep it that way. The moment I stepped outside the storage unit, I sensed it immediately. The shift in the air, the subtle tension of being followed. I didn't turn around, not yet. Instead, I walked calmly toward my car, documents secured, flash drive in hand. If someone was monitoring the unit, they would now have to decide: reveal themselves or lose control. Halfway to the parking area, a voice called out behind me. Not loud, not threatening, just firm. "You shouldn't have activated the protection file." I stopped. Slowly, I turned. The same figure from before stood a few yards away, no longer hidden in shadows. This time, their expression wasn't aggressive, it was conflicted. "Your wife anticipated everything," they continued. "She knew there would be interference. She also knew you would eventually find the truth. But by accessing the records, you've triggered a legal lock. The system now requires verification, and the people trying to misuse her information will be exposed." My heart pounded, but this time not from fear, from realization. She hadn't been hiding from me. She had been building a trap for whoever tried to control her secrets. And by following every clue, I hadn't walked into danger. I had completed her plan. The figure stepped back slightly. "Now it's out of our hands," they said quietly. "The final phase has begun." I stood there in silence as the meaning of everything finally settled in. The hollow wall, the hidden files, the flash drive, the storage unit, the surveillance. It hadn't been a story of betrayal, it had been a carefully constructed shield. My wife hadn't been hiding secrets to hurt me. She had been protecting me from people who wanted control over information she possessed. By following every clue, I had unknowingly activated the final layer of her protection plan. The figure in front of me stepped back and lowered their voice. "The records are now secured. The system has logged every attempt to interfere. Whoever tried to manipulate this will face consequences." For the first time since the plumber's call, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Not because the mystery was solved, but because it finally made sense. When the plumber said, "Come home now, but come alone," I thought it was a warning of danger. In reality, it was the beginning of her final instruction to me. And as I looked back toward the direction of my home, I realized something deeply personal. She hadn't left me with confusion. She had left me with protection. The truth wasn't meant to break me. It was meant to free me. And in the quiet after everything, I understood that sometimes the secrets we fear most are actually the love stories we didn't recognize in time.